This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good morning, everyone. I've got 9:30, and we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Killeen-Temple Transportation Planning Policy Board to order at this time, noting that we do have a quorum. The next item on our agenda is opportunity for public comment. Do we have anyone here in person that's about to address the policy board? Is there anyone that's participating online would like to address the policy? And do we have anybody?
Does not appear that we have anyone making comments.
Okay, great. We'll continue on item number 3 on the agenda, staff updates. James.
Judge, Urian is not here today. He has a conference in DC that he is attending, but he misses everybody. He would say that. For first off, is upcoming meetings. We do have a freight advisory committee meeting next week. They meet quarterly. It'll be at 2:30 on Tuesday. Ryan, a couple weeks ago, attended the Tempo spring meeting update, and there's a lot of good information shared at that meeting. TxDOT is working with the Texas A&M Transportation Institute on some safety action plans. These are separate from the SS4A funding that we received. They're going to be pretty short, and they're one for each NPO in the state. So I think about 4 pages is what I heard. But that was an update shared. There was some information on upcoming performance targets, the bridge and pavement targets for 2024 and 2026. That information has been sent to staff or sent out to the NPOs. We have a deadline of August to adopt the new targets. So in the coming months, you'll see information about that. The congestion, PM3, reliability performance measures, that data is scheduled to be released next month. And so we'll likely bring those 2 resolutions and information to policy board at the same time, maybe in June and July. TxDOT had some new information on the census, urban area, and boundary smoothing. This is separate from the boundary expansion discussion that staff has been exploring. This is something that's done after every census. They look at the new urban areas that the census has designated, and if there are areas outside of the current NPO boundaries that need to be included, they recommend changes. There's a small area, I think it's in Coryell County, right around Fort, soon to be Cavazos, that will need to be incorporated. They're going to have some updates later this year, so we will share that information as it comes. And then the last thing from TxDOT was there is a new MPO in the state of Texas, Eagle Pass, and then there's 2 new TMAs. I think it's Amarillo and Ryan College Station. So there's going to be some funding changes because of that. The slice of pie is not getting, or the whole pie is not getting any bigger. So, but more NPOs will need funding, so our slice might be a little smaller. Urian does think that with the COVID funding that we've received, that it should end up being pretty minimal, the impacts, but we'll continue updating the board on that. Staff is working on updating our UPWP. We have this fall, we're due to submit a new UPWP, which is our internal budget document. So we'll be working on that over the next few months, updating the board. Following this meeting, we are having a workshop on transportation funding for the NPO, talking about the different categories we receive and eligible projects. We will be recording that, so we'll send out a link after if you're unable to stick around and listen to that. And then second to last thing, TxDOT is working on their long-range plan connecting Texas 2050. They have current 60-day public involvement, public comment opportunity open through the end of May. There's a link on the slide in your packet, and if you want to check out that QR code, it'll take you to their website. I believe this fall they're having another round, and they have been having meetings around the state. There's not one near our region or in our district this time, but in the fall they should have an in-person meeting, maybe in Georgetown or somewhere. We'll update the board. Lastly, air quality for the month of March in Temple, it was 64 parts per billion, and Killeen was 59 parts per billion. That's all I have, Judge.
Any questions, comments, concerns about the staff updates? No, thank you, James. Next item on our agenda, item number 4, is an action item regarding the approval of minutes from the February 15th, 2023 meeting. There are no corrections to be made. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Havlaw and a second. I kind of got it in stereo. Mayor Davis? Okay,
Yes.
very good. Any further discussion on item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 5 on the agenda is a discussion item regarding the 2050 MTP update timeline. James?
Yes, staff is working on updating our MTP, which is our long-range plan. Federal regulations require that we update it every 5 years. Our last update was in May 2019, so we're working on an update for next year. As part of that, we have a timeline of kind of some of the things that we're going to be working on. We're planning to have a project call this fall to update the MTP project listing. There's just some highlights on the screen here for a full timeline. It's included in your packet. We're right now anticipating scheduling the call for projects or opening that on September 1st and closing it on October 13th. It's about 6 weeks. We may have a bus tour this year. I know the last time we did it it was 2020, so we weren't able to have one. We did a virtual one. The final scores, we're anticipating in January having the rankings set out, and then there'll be several months of discussion on the scoring and bonus points if that's happening this year, and the funding scenarios. We'll also we tried to tie in our MTP development with the new tip that we'll be working on for FY25 to 28. So in March of next year, along with the funding scenario, there should be a draft tip for review. And then we're looking at right now in July adoption of the MTP. This schedule is subject to change, but staff will continue keeping the board updated as we move through this process.
Any questions or comments on the update to the timeline for development tip for the MTP? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 6 on the agenda, which is a discussion and action item regarding the approval of resolution 2023-04 supporting April 2023 as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month.
This is the second time we've brought this resolution before the board. I know distracted driving is a major issue. We presented this resolution to the TAC, and there was some information released a couple weeks ago, last week maybe, from TxDOT on 2022 numbers. So we've made there's some changes in the 4th clause, just updating some of the statistics around distracted driving. Since 2017, there have been 2,000 people killed due to distracted drivers. Distracted driving deaths increased 10% from last year, and approximately 1 in 6 crashes last year were attributed to distracted driving. So it's a major issue. Staff is looking into possibly doing some sort of media campaign. We're working with FHWA on we're working with FHWA on that. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we can update the word next month.
Questions or comments for James? Not, I entertain a motion.
Oh, that 10% figure, was that nationally?
That was just for Texas, the state of Texas. Yeah.
The 1 in 6 crashes then is the state of Texas and not nationally?
Yes,
Oh,
these
okay.
numbers are all state of Texas. And I see that's not specified. We can revise the.
No, fine.
Okay. Yeah, those numbers in there are all for the state of Texas.
Unless it posts on a cell phone while somebody's driving, I don't know how good it's gonna do. I'm sorry. I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution supporting national distracted driver awareness.
Second.
Very good. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7 on the agenda is a discussion and action item regarding the approval of resolution 2023-05 supporting May 2023 as National Bike Month.
It's another resolution that we've been bringing for the last few years. It's the same, other than the dates have changed for this year. And we presented this to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and they approved a change to note that the city of Nolanville is having a ride of silence on May 17th. They have one every year, and so that is also a change from last year's resolution, but otherwise, this is the same resolution that has been presented the last few years.
Questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 8 on the agenda, again, is discussion and action item regarding the initiation of public involvement for amendments to the FY 23 through 26 Transportation Improvement Program TIP and the 2045 MTP for projects.
Yes, we have more amendments. Staff has received several requests for amendments. There's 4 proposed amendments. We received requests from Belton, Harker Heights, and Toledo for the 13th Ave sidewalk projects, the Warriors Path Phase 2, and the Royal Street improvement projects. Those are, the first 2 are just let date changes, moving them from 2023 to 2024. And the Royal Street has some scope of work and funding changes. The Georgetown Railroad Trail Phase 1, staff reached out to the city about moving that let date back, and they were amenable. And part of that reason is for the next agenda item, related to the carbon reduction program. But the city also said that they had it would help them out to move the let date change. So there's not a request in your packet, but they are were agreeable to that change. Like I said, just the first 3 of them are just let date changes, no funding tax. The Royal Street project, Village of Salado, has requested a revision. They are still repairing the roadway, but they're also adding sidewalks, and they're not doing a full depth rehabilitation. They're just doing an overlay of the roadway. The funding has changed a little bit. It's increasing about $18,000, and that's a $15,000 program increase. Here's the schedule for amendments. If policy board approves initiation public involvement, we'll have a 15-day public comment period from April 24 to May 8th, and a public hearing public meeting on May 2nd at the SIGCOG offices. And we'll bring this back next month. We will bring this back next month for approval.
Questions, comments, concerns for James and staff? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. We've got a motion to approve and a second to initiate the public involvement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 9 on the agenda, again, is a discussion and action item regarding the new carbon reduction program. James?
Thanks, Judge. So the carbon reduction program was established by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act from a few years ago. That funding has been working its way through FHWA and TxDOT. The program provides funds for projects designed to reduce transportation emissions, defined as carbon dioxide emissions from on-road highway sources. The funding is split into 3 different categories by FHWA and TxDOT. There's a large sum for the MPO. There's part of the funding that TxDOT received will go for statewide projects, and then the Clean Urban Area and the Temple Urban Area each are receiving a smaller portion of funds to be used in those urban areas. For today's discussion, we're just focusing on the MPO funding pot, that's $7.5 million. We're not sure exactly what how the funding for the Killeen-Temple urban areas is going to look like, but we have received some guidance on the MPO pot. This funding does have a time limit on it, similar to the Category 9 funding we receive. Funds must be obligated within 4 years, but they will lapse. The reason this pot is so big is because we're receiving funds from the last 3 fiscal years. Funding was first allocated in FY22, but it's taken TxDOT some time to roll out what it's going to look like, and so they're giving us a lump sum that includes 3 fiscal years. So the FY22 funds are lapsing in 2025, maybe 2026. There is a 20% local match for the funds, similar to categories 7 and 9. Since these funds have a lapse date and it's a new program, TxDOT has encouraged MPOs to use these funds as fast as possible. And kind of the recommendation and what staff has discussed is the best way to do that would be to reprogram, switch out the funding from currently funded projects that are eligible with the Category 10 CR funding. And so if you have the packet, there is a funding scenario, and this is the presentation. Yeah, page 43 in your packet. Staff is recommending there's 4 projects that are eligible to receive funding. Thank you, Hope, for pulling that up. Or 4 projects that we're recommending of switching the funding category. So they're currently mostly Category 7 projects, except the Georgetown Railroad Trail Phase 1, which has some Category 9 on it. I don't think there would need to be a TIP amendment. It would just be an administrative change on TxDOT's part. I think that's what we've discussed with them. And really, it would just look like switching the funding over from Category 7 to Category 10. There wouldn't be any impact on when these projects were let. There is a slight funding change for the Georgetown Railroad Trail Phase 1 project. Currently, they have about $400,000 of local dollars attached to that. And since we have a large influx of money, staff is recommending we cover 80% of that, which is with the new CRP funding. So
80% of the project rate to 80% of the match.
80% of the $400,000 right now they have 1.2 million in Cat 7 and Cat 9, and then 400,000 of Cat local contribution. So we would just include that the 1.6 million would be the programmed amount allocated towards category CRP, towards the carbon reduction funding.
And so since the let dates on the later ones are past the 2025, that would be a 2023 or 2024 funded would go into that. So
Correct. Yeah.
we wouldn't lapse.
No. Yeah, the idea is we have that Georgetown project is for sure going to let this fall, so that would take up the first portion of the funds that we have available, and then those other projects would cover the later, the FY23-24 years. With this proposal, it does free up about 6 million in category 7 and 380,000 in category 9 funding to be allocated towards other projects. That's for the next discussion, will be to put those fundings towards new projects, but staff sees this as the most expedient way to utilize this new funding without incurring running into issues with lapse.
So you weren't sure how the city was going to use their, or how they could use their money?
So we know that funding is coming. I don't know exactly how we're getting that funding, if it's coming from TxDOT or if it's Victor, I don't know if you know anything.
I don't know yet.
Okay.
You want the same thing on the other reviews as well.
Okay.
We'll figure it out, Bobby.
Yeah.
All right.
I can say those dollars have to be used within the specific urban areas. So the 600,000 for Killeen has to be used within the Killeen urban area. And then the 200,000 for Temple has to be used within the Temple urban area. So Temple, Milton, so they go. The other thing with this funding, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but it's pretty flexible. Almost all projects are eligible for it, except for added capacity projects. Where I had a list of which projects are eligible. There's a whole list, but as long as it's not adding capacity, they're eligible.
Luckily, both that project's on our list. So they got projects.
Yes.
But you don't know how that's going to cut. It's not going to, we won't go directly to the city, so it'll come through.
I think it's coming through the MPO. We haven't received guidance on that yet. We know it's coming, but we haven't received information on how it's coming yet.
Do you know when that's coming?
The large pot, the $7.7 million, that's currently in the UTP for FY24. So we can't spend it yet, but starting this fall, assuming it's approved by the Transportation Commission, that's when we could spend the dollars, which is the reason to push the Georgetown Railroad Trail project FY24, because otherwise we couldn't put the CRP funding on it.
Now, do the cities know yet that they're receiving, or is this like hot off the press?
This is the first time that we're sharing this information. So,
And so there's 287 earmarked for the cities. And then you're saying that then out of the MPO's dollars, there's a proposal to fund 80% of 20% match. Did I hear that correctly?
so the Georgetown Railroad Trail project currently has, I have the tip sheet here, so let me give you the right.
A couple $1 million.
Yeah, it's a $2 million project. MPO only funds 80% of it.
Right.
Right now, there's an additional, the MPO is funding 1.28 million between category 7 and category 9. There's 400,000 that the city has added to fund that project of their own dollars outside of the already 20% match. So currently 1.6 million is being
So right now in the MPO funding schedule,
Yeah,
there's 1.28 million scheduled to be funded out of 2 million.
correct.
Correct.
From the federal dollars, that's 80%. And then
And so out of here, out of the MPO's budget is another 320.
Yes.
Which then brings it up to 160 and 1.6,
correct.
leaving the city of Temple at the scheduled 20% match of 400.
Right. So the total for the city would be 400.
Okay.
Instead of right now it's 720,000.
Okay, earlier Bob said that it was going to the yard fund, that the MPO was funding 80% of the 20% left. That's not right.
Yeah, sorry, I probably couldn't.
No, that's fine,
I
that's fine.
confused it.
That works. Thank
It's,
you.
at the end, it's 80% of the 2 million, which is 1.6.
Right.
Um,
So city of Temple, we're still at 20% match.
correct.
I got you. Thank you.
James, you mentioned the CRP was 7.6, and these add up, these four projects add up to 6.7. If
Correct.
that last 9, is that what you're proposing, the last 900 is used on?
For, what we're going to talk with Hill Country about giving them some money. Some of the CRP, you can use CRP funding for some of the, for transit activities. I don't know if we're going to use it to purchase buses like we have with our regular CAT $7, but we're going to talk with Daryl about giving them some of that money instead of our regular CAT $7. I know it's kind of confusing. New program, kind of confusing.
Basically, a new pod that you're going to pay for CAT 7.9 projects we already have, so that will reopen funds in CAT 7.9. Right. Which will be our next time.
Yeah, and the reason being, there's a time limit on these funds, and we're trying to use them as fast as possible.
Plus, there's funding rules on this CAT 10, right? It's harder to fill versus CAT 7, much.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easier to fill that part up first and then. We approval on this?
We do need approval regarding the carbon reduction program funding scenario. We've got a motion to approve in a second. And a third. And a third. Any further discussion on item 9? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Which leads us into item number 10, which is again is a discussion and action item regarding the category 7 and 9 project funding and some proposed scenarios. James, you want to take this one?
I can take this one again. So there's a table on the screen that kind of shows our budgeted amount, or what we have to spend through from FYs 24 to 27. The programmed amount there does include the changes based on the CRP funding from the previous action item. So that's incorporated into this table. And then the available amount on that third is how much we have to spend. So for category 7, that's just over 19 million over the next 4 years. And for category 9, it's 3.5 million. Part of the reason for this is TxDOT reached out to the MPO and through the Waco district and is requesting that we have 90% of our funds for years 1 to 4, which is FY 24 to 27 programs by May. And so since we have a large portion of funding currently unallocated, we are working to show TxDOT that we're trying to fund those projects. There are 3 funding scenarios in your packet. I'm going to go to alternative number 3 because after discussion, this is the scenario that the TAC recommended. I do want to make a note. There was discussion about whether these projects are ready or these are the priorities for different cities. And it was determined that, especially with our project call coming up, this activity right now is more it's really a placeholder, trying to show TxDOT that we're using funds, because there's some question about whether these projects are actually going to be ready, and we're not making any tip changes at this time. So this is, the action would be to approve this scenario, but it's subject to change. We can modify this going forward as new information comes. Then the last thing I'll note is you'll see a big jump from number 4 to number 21. The way staff worked on these scenarios is we just pulled the next eligible projects from the MTP. So between 4 and 21, all of those projects in between there were already funded, or they're eligible for a different pot of money, category 2, namely, or they were too large to be funded with the available category 7 balance. So that's why there's a large jump between 4 and 21. Now I can take any questions anybody has.
James, the question I had is, it shows a 60 million in additional program. I don't see that in any of the background.
Yeah, so those, and Victor, I don't know if you want it, but those are the inflation dollars, I think, that we've added on to some of the other projects that are currently in the TIP, which is the bypass and the loop 363 one, maybe.
Yes, there was a previous action.
Right.
Yes, yeah, yeah, so.
Isn't US 190 phase 2, isn't that continuation where there's lights right now trying to get into the freeway? Is that what that is?
That's a copper.
That's the car stuff. Right?
Yes. From the Avenue D intersection west.
So that's additional lanes, from a business line or US line?
I was just trying to figure out which project that was out of that. So,
This is 190. It doesn't have any lanes. It has sidewalks. But right now, the way it's defined as
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking about, there's only got 2 on the US line. Okay. Two different 190 projects.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Silence is deafening. A lot to digest, but I think the attack, I think, had some pretty extensive discussions on it. So with that, I would entertain.
I'll just add one more thing, and Victor, you can chime in if I'm wrong, but TBD has requested from y'all that we provide a list of projects by May. I don't know if that's changed. I know Brenton said that there was some flexibility maybe in that at the TAC meeting, but that's part of the reason for us doing this is there's been a request for us to provide a list of projects that we're trying to fund.
So the new UTP that's coming out, we were talking about, it's going to get approved by the commission in the fall. It's the largest one we've ever had. We're over $100 billion statewide of funding that we're wanting to build to spend those dollars in these projects. So yeah, TPP has given us a directive in order to get all these categories funded. All the categories of funded and programmed by a certain date. In May is the date for the 7 and 9 projects. It's also the date for the tax carbon reduction, but that being a new one. I think we're on a good path in this MPO that we should be able to get it funded and get it shown if we have projects and get taken on action. Some of the other MPOs don't necessarily have projects ready to go. They can fit in that category funding, so those we might be able to lay on. But I think on this MPO, we should be able to make these deadlines and get these projects programmed. Yeah, May is the date they gave us.
Yeah, and I would say, definitely in the TAC, there were some concerns with like Featherline Road. I think the city of Killeen said that's not really on their priority list. They would prefer funding go to a different project. So we're doing this exercise, and I see this as a starting point for going forward. Like, since we're not making any tip changes right now, we can revisit this in the coming months. And even after the UTP is approved and make changes as necessary. And most of these projects are in the later years of our current tip and even the first year after our current tip. So staff is not saying we're trying to lock this in now and this is what it's going to be. Like, we can revisit it. And the TAC definitely was interested in revisiting it over the coming months.
The $60 million change in tattoo on the sidewalk, that doesn't seem to be allocated to funding our current list. That
Are we waiting until the UTP before we make the tip changes for that?
So we wait till UTP is approved. We've made the changes to text document. They haven't been approved yet.
There will be more tip amendments in the coming months for some of those changes and I don't know if we have to do it for the category 10, the CRP funding, but there'll be more in the coming months for some of this.
need to approve category 7. All three.
Alternative, okay, good. Second. We've got a motion to approve alternative number 3 as it was presented on page 47, going out, and a second to that. Any further discussion on item number 10? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Again, thank you for that, Jameson. Item number 11 is a discussion item regarding the appointments to the bylaws, safety, and project scoring work groups. These are work groups that we have discussed implementing here as part of this fiscal year as we develop a couple of these new programs, review some things. James?
I don't have any firm updates. I know Ryan has been reaching out to different folks to finalize the membership, and he's still waiting on some responses. So once he comes back, and we'll send out more information. We'll probably provide an update next month. That's what I have.
Any questions on that? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 12, which again is a discussion item regarding the Safe Streets and Roads for All SA4A grant update. Thanks.
Killeen-Temple and Oriole County and FHWA have a meeting on April 24th, kickoff meeting for the grant. We're still waiting for an agreement to be signed at this time, but we'll possibly be sending out an RFP later this month or next month to get a consultant on board for that. And then this is not related to specifically to our grant, but TxDOT is sponsoring a workshop training at the SICCOG offices on May 23rd. It'll be a 6-hour meeting, and it possibly will be geared towards future implementation funding under the SS4A grant. I'm not sure. Again, we can send out more information as we get it from TxDOT for this. That's all I have on this.
Very good. I would remind the board, I think this was the 3rd largest award in the state, collectively with SICCOG and the NPO. So great opportunity for regional transit development coordination. Anything else under item number 12? Hearing none, moving on to item number 13, which is a discussion item regarding an update on the possible MPO boundary expansion. Again, information that we've discussed and continue to explore. James.
Staff has met with Waco District and the Brownwood District to discuss this, and everyone is on board from a planning perspective. I think it's great if we expand it to incorporate all of Lampasas and Oriole County into the MPO. Everyone has some concerns with the fiscal impact of expansion, and especially Brownwood District, they have some projects that could possibly be impacted if we expanded the funding source for those. Urian has sent a request to TxDOT for some scenario of some sort on the impact of expansion to our PL dollars and some other information. The folks that would send that information to us are busy working on the UTP right now, so we don't anticipate getting that until maybe later this summer. But we'll continue keeping the board updated on conversations and information. Right now, we're still waiting before we kind of talk about moving forward and what that might look like.
So I have, thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussions? I hear none. We'll move on to item number 14 on the agenda, which again is a discussion item, and it is regarding the FY 2022 annual performance and expenditure report, the APER, that was sent out in your packet as a separate attachment. James.
This is provided as information only. Every year, we're required to submit a report that basically shows how we spent our planning dollars from the UPWP for the previous fiscal year and outline accomplishments. We submitted it in December and we received approval in January. I think last year we provided this as information. So if you have any questions, it was included in an attachment along with the original email. Happy to answer any questions. That's all.
Any questions for James? Comments or concerns? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 15, which is help me find number 15, which is a discussion item regarding public input received through March of 2023. James.
There's a few comments in your packet. I think these were presented at the last meeting, so we don't have anything new since the last time we met 2 months ago.
Okay. Comments from the board on public comments? Hearing none. Item number 16, member comments.
So we have a new Bell County hearing engineer, which is familiar face to those Oriole County.
Hi, I'm Mike Gates. I'm the new area engineer in the Belton area office. I was the assistant for 2 years, starting in 2020, and then I took the area engineer job in Gatesville. So I know a couple people in here know me from that. And I just started today's day 3 in Belton. So I'm still learning people and getting used to it. I know the area. I was in Belton for a couple of years.
So we didn't kick Stephen out. He's our, it's not the district office.
I do think it's worthy to note that Oriole County, especially Calvert County, is a great training ground for the rest of our partners. We appreciate it. You're welcome.
I was going to ask you about that. Is that what we do? We test them out in Oriole County, and if they pass muster, then they just get moved on up to bigger and better things.
They can survive before you're gone, and then you survive again.
Victor, I did have a question for you, and I don't, this kind of puts you on the spot, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to pin you down. But I believe that TxDOT has, big TxDOT has pretty significant amount of funds available that have not been able to be spent by larger jurisdictions, and some of that stuff is being reconsolidated, reorganized, and possibly some plans being talked about at some pretty high levels about the expenditures, hundreds of millions of dollars. Is there anything that you can share with us on what might potentially come of that?
So I think I maybe have talked about it maybe in previous TAC meeting. Right now, Texas as a whole, we're having a program we call the Rapid Stack. So like you said, there are big city projects that for some reason are tripped up and don't get to let. Texas has already said we're going to spend these billions of dollars on this project. Now you have a bank account balance. Money was sitting there. So what we're doing is every district is having to do this is that we look, we get regular allocations or different categories of funding. We plan for those projects to fund for those categories, but then they also want to have projects on the shelf. So let's say Dallas District has a $40 million project that falls through the cracks, they can't let it, so then they go to the other districts and look around this. Waco District, they'll have a PO project in Killeen-Temple that's $40 million, is ready to go. And I'd say, yeah, it's ready to go. It's like, well, here's this funding, go build the project. So that's kind of what they want to do. It's basically, they want to have a whole bunch of different puzzle pieces ready to go to fill the holes that do count. So, and maybe if it is, say, in Houston District, $4 billion 45 job, then you're not going to find another $4 billion job ready to go, but you can find different ones to make it to load that hole, basically, and kind of keep the lettings level process. That's kind of, as far as actually us just getting extra money, because we're getting it. When you see this UTP numbers come out for 24, you can see a huge jump in the categories of funding. It's, I wouldn't say necessarily hundreds of millions of extra for our district or our deal. So, but over the 10-year span, they're going to let us use those funds sooner if they need holes. Okay, that answer your question?
No, it did. I mean, it's, and I don't know that I'm reading the state correctly or not, but it seems like in many areas with the IIJA has kind of overwhelmed the system, if you will, so that local governments, MPOs, various entities don't have the capacity to actually expend all of the funding that's being made available to them. And I think that's a systemic across the board. I mean, it's not any one individual or, even at the state. I think other states are having the same problem, that we were kind of designed and structured to be able to handle a certain flow. And now there's more that's being shoved into that pipeline than what we previously dealt with. So I would encourage all of you, I know from Corio County standpoint, what we're trying to do is develop projects that we probably wouldn't have considered in the past, anticipating that at some point somebody's going to say, hey, I've got $2 million, or I've got $20 million, $200 million, something crazy. And there's going to be either a state or federal agency that's looking to offload that to meet a particular timeline. So anyway, I'm just, Miller's 2 cents, that I would encourage you to start, looking at things maybe you wouldn't have necessarily looked at historically, and invest some time and effort in prepping those.
I will say too, in this area, I remember a few years ago, we had the whole STIP constraint issue where we had to push projects out. So bypass was one of the Loop 360 overpass projects. We had to push them outside of the STIP statewide. We had too many projects within that 4-year STIP. We had money for it. So having said that, we have those projects pretty much ready to go. We pushed them out to FY26. Now 26 is about to be in the STIP, or is in the STIP. Sorry. We have those ready to go. He said the districts are dropping the ball. I really think there's a good chance that those projects are both going to go next year. So I've got some up north and the rest of our districts. It's the same. Both of them have ready to go. We're going to, when they ask, who has projects ready, they raise their hand and throw those projects in there. So I'm not saying they're going 100%, but I would say 99%. Sure, I think you can get them out of the ordinances.
We're starting to see in Bill County, some of our smaller communities don't have enough funds to match the funds that they could get now. They've got projects ready because they're growing so quickly. We're trying to slay them out, just lower all these artifacts. To have the dollars available to do that, there's no mechanism for any help with that, at least not that we found yet. So we could use that. We can put it right now. The engineering's in place, it's all ready to go. But they don't have $200,000 to make that.
Victor, is that cash dot loan program available for matching?
Yes, absolutely. I think no one will just do their match on projects. Civil, state infrastructure bank. Yeah, hit me up and I can get you in touch with Dallas Testing. He's the one that runs it. It's really super low rates, easy repayment methods. And I don't know the details, I don't want to go off talking about it, but it's a way to get your match or runs for projects. And it also, so everybody's aware, off-system bridges right now, if you have an off-system bridge that's eligible for funding, it's in poor condition, functional obsolete, eligible. Until FY '26, they're waiving the 10% construction match. So, I think PE would be covered and then construction would be covered. The only thing that local governments would be responsible for would be utilities and driveways. So if you have any projects, bridges that need to be replaced, now's the time to do it.
So that text dot, loan thing that you were just referring to could be used for the preparation. The underground preparation is an example for these funds you're talking about, if indeed they become available.
So I don't know exactly what they can and can't be used for. I know the question was, can the city use it as their local match?
Okay. I
For sure,
see.
they could use for that. They could, I think it can also be used for engineering plans, design work.
Yeah, but it has to be environmentally clear.
They're careful. Yeah, exactly.
You get it, that's the trick, though, you have to get it environmentally cleared to get funding. And then you can use it for engineering, but nothing, you can't reimburse yourself for.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
All right, any other member comments? And Victor, I appreciate you being tolerative of me throwing you under the bus like that. And the information you provided. Well, hearing no further comments, that concludes the business of Planning Policy Board today, and we stand adjourned.